feel a little scared as I start to write about my life story. I feel a little nervous about revealing the memories of my childhood, which are like a magical haze. Writing an autobiography can be really hard. When I think about my first memories, I realize that reality and imagination seem similar as time goes by. The lady uses her imagination to create stories about the child's adventures. I have some really strong memories from when I was really little, but the rest of my early years are kind of hazy. Also, a lot of the happy and sad moments from when I was a kid don't feel as strong anymore. And I've forgotten a bunch of important things I learned when I was little because I've been so focused on making big discoveries. So, to make it more fun and not boring, I'll try to tell you only the most exciting and important parts in a series of short stories. I came into the world on June 28th, 1995, in Tuscumbia, a small town in northern Alabama. My dad's family comes from a guy named Caspar Keller. He was from Switzerland and moved to Maryland. One of my ancestors from Switzerland was the very first teacher of the deaf in Zurich. They even wrote a book about how to educate them. It's quite a unique coincidence, you know. It's interesting to think that every king has had a slave in their family tree, and every slave has had a king in theirs. My grandfather, Caspar Keller's son, got big pieces of land in Alabama and eventually made it his home. Every year, he would ride on a horse from Tuscumbia to Philadelphia to buy things for the plantation. My aunt has some of the letters he wrote to his family during these trips, and they are really interesting and descriptive. My grandma Keller was the daughter of one of Lafayette's helpers, Alexander Moore, and the granddaughter of Alexander Spotswood, who was an important governor of Virginia a long time ago. She was also related to Robert E. Lee as his second cousin. My dad, Arthur H. Keller, was a captain in the Confederate Army. My mom, Kate Adams, was his second wife and much younger than him.
Her grandpa, Benjamin Adams, got married to Susanna E. Goodhue, and they lived in Newbury, Massachusetts, for a long time. Their child, Charles Adams, was born in a town called Newburyport, Massachusetts, and later moved to another place called Helena, Arkansas.
During the Civil War, he joined the Southern side and became a brigadier general. He got married to Lucy Helen Everett, who was part of the same family as Edward Everett and Dr. Edward Everett Hale. Once the war ended, the family decided to relocate to Memphis, Tennessee. Before I got sick and couldn't see or hear anymore, I lived in a small house with 2 rooms. One was big and the other was where the servant slept. In the South, it's common to make a little house next to the main house that can be used sometimes. My dad built a really cool house after the Civil War, and when he got married to my mom, they moved into it. The whole place was filled with plants like vines, climbing roses, and honeysuckles. From the garden, it seemed like a cozy little hideaway. The small porch was covered by a beautiful arrangement of yellow roses and southern smilax, making it hard to see. It was a special place that hummingbirds and bees loved to visit. The Keller house, where the family lived, was just a short walk from our small rose garden. The name Ivy Green was chosen because the house, trees, and fences were all covered in lovely English ivy. The garden at my house when I was a kid was really cool. Before my teacher arrived, I would explore the square boxwood hedges and use my sense of smell to find the first violets and lilies. There also, when I was feeling angry, I would go to find comfort and hide my red face in the nice leaves and grass. It was so much fun to explore that garden full of flowers. I would happily wander around, going from one place to another. And then, all of a sudden, I stumbled upon a gorgeous vine. I could tell it was the same vine that grew on the old, run-down summer house at the back of the garden, just by looking at its leaves and flowers. Here, there were also pretty flowers like clematis, jessamine, and butterfly lilies. These special flowers have delicate petals that look like butterfly wings. But the roses, they were the most beautiful of all.
I've never seen roses as beautiful as the climbing roses in my home down south.
They make my heart feel so happy. They used to hang in long strings from our porch, making the air smell really good without any dirt smell. And in the early morning, covered in dew, they felt really soft and clean. I couldn't help but think they looked like the flowers in God's garden. When I first started out, my life was really easy, and just like any other little life, I came, I saw, I won, just like the first baby in the family always does. They talked a lot about what to call me. The very first baby in the family needed a special name, and everyone agreed on that. My dad came up with the name Mildred Campbell, who he really admired, and he didn't want to talk about it anymore.
My mom fixed the problem by deciding that I should have the same name as her mom, whose original name was Helen Everett.
But when my dad was taking me to church, he accidentally forgot the name along the way. It's understandable since he didn't want to be involved in it. When the minister asked him, he suddenly remembered that they had decided to name me after my grandmother. So he told the minister that my name was Helen Adams. When I was a little kid, people
noticed that I was always eager and liked to speak up for myself.
I wanted to copy everything I saw other people doing. When I was just 6 months old, I could say, "Howdy ye." And one day I got everyone's attention by saying tea, tea, tea very clearly.
Even after I got sick, I still remembered one of the words I had learned when I was little.
I kept saying the word water, even when I couldn't say anything else. I stopped saying wah-wah only when I figured out how to spell the word. They said I started walking when I turned 1 year old. My mom had just taken me out of the bathtub and was holding me in her lap when I noticed the moving shadows of leaves that were dancing in the sunlight on the shiny floor. I tumbled off my mother's lap and nearly sprinted towards them. I lost my desire to keep going, so I fell down and cried, asking her to pick me up and hold me. These joyful times didn't stick around for very long. Once upon a time, there was a happy child who enjoyed the beautiful seasons. In the spring, they heard the sweet songs of robins and mockingbirds. In the summer, they saw lots of delicious fruits and pretty roses. And in the autumn, they witnessed the leaves turning golden and crimson. The child was very excited and grateful for all these wonderful gifts. Then, in the cold and gloomy month of February, I got sick. It was a sickness that made me unable to see or hear, and it felt like I was completely unaware of everything around me, just like a newborn baby. They said it was a bad tummy ache and headache. The doctor believed that I wouldn't be able to survive. One morning, though, the fever went away from me just as quickly and mysteriously as it had appeared.
That morning, the family was really happy, but nobody, not even the doctor, knew that I would never be able to see or hear again.
I think I still remember bits and pieces of that sickness. I have a vivid memory of how my mom would comfort me when I was upset and in pain. I also remember the confusion and distress I felt when I woke up from a restless nap and looked at the wall, avoiding the light that used to bring me joy, but now seemed dimmer with each passing day. But besides these quick memories, if they are memories at all, it all feels very unreal, like a bad dream. Over time, I became accustomed to the quiet and darkness that were always there, and I forgot that things had ever been any other way. But then, someone special arrived, my teacher, who was going to help me find my true self. When I was a baby, I saw beautiful things like big fields, a bright sky, and pretty trees and flowers.
Even though darkness came later and made it hard to see,
I still remember those glimpses of beauty. We've seen it before. The day belongs to us, and we've learned from the day.
Don't forget to like and done in the comment.